The pick is in.
The Philadelphia Eagles have made a selection in the 2024 NFL Draft. Alongside Locked On College Football host Spencer McLaughlin, I'm Tanitra Batiste, and we are joined by Louis DiBiase of Locked On Eagles to break down the Eagles selecting Quinyon Mitchell with the number 22 pick. So, Louis, Quinyon Mitchell was considered by many to be the best corner in this draft. How fortunate for the Eagles to get him at 22.
It's unbelievable. I honestly thought Quinyon Mitchell was somebody they'd have to trade up at least into the top 15 for. I was projecting a trade at 12 with the Denver Broncos that might have to include one of their second-round picks at 50 or 53 overall. The fact that they got the best corner in this draft, in my opinion, at 22nd overall is an absolute steal. But that's just how the board fell. This draft was offense-heavy, tackles, receivers, and quarterbacks. It was a perfect year for the Eagles to need defense in the first round, and this is the first time Howie Roseman took a corner on day one. Can't believe I thought I'd see the day never, and we actually got it tonight, and I'm ecstatic.
And it's funny you mentioned that, Louis, because I saw that stat that said literally the Philadelphia Eagles have not drafted a corner since 2002 in the first round. So I ask you, what exactly did they see in Mitchell to say, hey, that's our guy?
Yeah, and I think some people might overlook or look too much into the fact that he played at Toledo, but this is a player that skills translate to the next level for sure. 4.3 speed, an elite zone coverage corner. I think the best ball hawk in this class. There was a game in college where he had 4 interceptions. Also showed at the Senior Bowl this year that he can play press man against some of the best receivers in football. I just think his game translates so well. And in a modern day NFL where teams have 2 to 3 star receivers at a time, you need to have speed and long-term sustainability at a very important position. So Terrion Arnold from Alabama was a really good corner too. It was probably 1A, 1B versus 1 and 2. But I think Mitchell was the 1A, and he matches his game off of Darius Slay, who, of course, is a Philadelphia Eagles starter. So I just think it makes too much sense. He's a very similar player to Slay, kind of like they made the pick with Cam Jurgens a few years ago, who's very similar to Jason Kelce. So kind of goes in line with that, only this time on the defensive side of the ball.
And speaking of the long term, and also speaking of Darius Slay, you kind of look at him and James Bradbury, they're getting a little bit older there. So what do you see in a guy like Mitchell who can bring something to that Eagles secondary and be, as you just mentioned, a part of that succession plan for him?
Yeah, and look, this succession plan is not a long-term thing only. This is going to be for the short term as well. In 2024, I expect him to start. James Bradbury, not only over 30 years old, but coming off the worst year of his career. And Darius Slay, I can't imagine will be in Philadelphia for more than another year or two. So they're going to need Quinyon Mitchell right away to play. And they've got some other good young pieces like Keely Ringo and Isaiah Rodgers, who was reinstated to the league this week. But Mitchell is going to be relied on heavily this year to cover the best of the best at wide receiver.
For more on the Eagles, subscribe to Locked On Eagles on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So, Spencer, we were kind of surprised as well because we saw Quinyon Mitchell go at 22 and we're thinking, wow, this guy is some type of talent. And I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles got a steal, but what exactly do you see them getting, especially in a player who played at Toledo, and maybe a lot of people don't know what Quinyon Mitchell brings to the table?
Well, if you're questioning his pedigree, just know that Nick Saban, right after he was selected, said, yeah, we tried to get him to Alabama, but he wouldn't leave Toledo, which I gotta applaud the Toledo football program there, that they were able to keep him out of the portal from going to Alabama. They've got to have some kind of culture up there. I mean, they've had a good program up there. They win football games at the Group of 5 level in the Mid-American Conference, but with Mitchell, you get speed. You get a guy that has got real NFL speed. And, when you watch his tape, I feel like he's not trying as hard as he needs to or will need to in the NFL because he doesn't have to. Like that's where his NFL gifts are. I felt like there were only a couple sequences you would watch on his highlight reels where you're going, oh yeah, there's the maximum effort. There's what he looks like playing at full speed. Every other time, I think he just outclassed the competition that he was going up against because guess what? He could have transferred to Alabama, and he would have gone and started at Alabama. This guy is being talked about in a Sauce Gardner sort of conversation. That's a high bar because Sauce Gardner is, an elite prospect, but he came from the Group of 5 ranks and should never overlook guys that come from that level. There are a lot of really, really good football players that play outside the power conferences in college football, and Quinyon Mitchell's the latest.
For continuing coverage of the 2024 NFL Draft, subscribe to Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.